All right, everybody. I'm here to talk about one of the biggest topics in the world right now, and that's the tariffs that our presidential administration here in the U.S. is putting on most countries around the world. First, I should explain how, in simple terms, how tariffs work, because I keep hearing Trump say that the tariffs he had on China in his first administration brought in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, but that's not how it works. The Chinese did not pay the money. We here in the U.S. paid the money. When a company here in the U.S. imports goods from China, they pay the tariff tax. And then they more than likely will pass on most of it, if not all of it, to us consumers. So the money was taxed here in the U.S. It was brought, the money was raised here in the U.S. It didn't come from China. He doesn't understand that. Another thing I hear on the tariffs, which is confusing, is Trump says one of the reasons to do the tariffs is to get countries from around the world to do deals with him, and then he can lower or remove the tariffs. Well, that means the tariffs aren't permanent, they're just temporary. And I heard Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, say the same thing as well. But that conflicts with another reason to do the tariffs. One of the other reasons to do the tariffs is to, they say they want to bring manufacturing back to this country, bring factories back here, but in order to do that, in order to entice companies to bring manufacturing back here, the tariffs have to be permanent. If the tariffs are going to be temporary, it's not going to induce companies to bring manufacturing back here, because the tariffs will be gone and we're back to where we were before. So the tariffs would need to be permanent, but not, they for quite a while, like at least 15 years, because it takes years and billions of dollars to get manufacturing up and running again in this country. So, and Trump's only, he'll be done in 4 years. So the next administration might repeal the tariffs, and then you're back to where you started. So most companies, they'll just wait it out for 4 years and to see what happens. It's not, they just can't afford to spend billions of dollars and lots of time to open up new factories. The tariff formula that was used to come up with the tariff, so what happened on Liberation Day, as they called it, from the White House, is, Trump held the poster board saying these are the tariffs countries are charging us, and so we'll charge a reciprocal tariff, but he said he was going to be a nice guy and just charge half of what they're charging us. But the formula they used to come up with the tariffs that the countries are charging us didn't make sense, and most economists from around the world were confused by it. And the formula was, they take a country's, our country's exports minus our imports, and which is, well, like with China, it's going to be a big negative number, and then you divide that by our country's exports, total exports, and that comes up with the number of their percentage of their tariffs, which it doesn't make sense. That's not how you figure out what a country is charging us with tariffs, by doing that formula. They have nothing to do with each other. But at any rate, then he would divide that number by 2 to come up with the tariff that the reciprocal tariff that we would charge these countries. But again, it doesn't make sense. Then there's a topic that I want to bring up. It's called comparative advantage. In today's world, you can call it globalism or whatever, but each country has a comparative advantage, meaning they are most efficient at producing a certain good. Like they'll produce something more efficiently and cheaper than we can produce it, so it makes sense for us to purchase the good from them, and then it makes sense for them to purchase some particular good or service from us that we can produce more efficiently than them. That's a comparative advantage. Kind of like if two neighbors, one's a carpenter and one's a software engineer, the software engineer, if he has some, needs help rebuilding part of his wooden fence, he's going to call his carpenter neighbor, because the carpenter neighbor is going to get it done much more quickly and efficiently than if the software engineer has to do a bunch of research to figure out how to do it. Same thing if the carpenter has a computer problem, instead of him taking 2 weeks and hours each day to try and figure it out, he's going to call a software buddy who will come over and fix it real quick. They each have a comparative advantage. Another example would be the country of Madagascar, the big island off the southeast coast of Africa. Their main export is vanilla. Well, you need the right climate to produce that. The vanilla orchids need a really hot and humid environment, plus the real fertile soil, which Madagascar is set up perfectly for that. Well, then you also need farmers with the expertise to not only plant the orchids, but they have to they have to hand pollinate them, because the bees that are needed to pollinate them do not exist in Madagascar. So the farmers need expertise on how to hand pollinate them. Then they harvest them and cure them and dry them. It's a multi-step process that takes many months. Well, we just put a tariff on Madagascar. Now we've increased our price that we are going to have to pay for vanilla. Are they going to instead be like, oh, okay, we'll produce it in the United States instead? No. Where are we going to produce vanilla here in the U.S. that has the same climate and soil that Madagascar has, including the farmer expertise? So it doesn't make sense. Let's see. Now, then we also have to talk about history. The last time our government tried this many volume of tariffs was in 1930. It was called the Smoot-Hawley Act. Now, first I will say in October 1929, that's when the stock market crashed. Before that, in March of 29, is when Congress passed the Smoot-Hawley Act, and then it went to the Senate. That was actually in May of 29. Then in March of 29 is when the Senate passed the Smoot-Hawley Act, and then it was enacted in June of 1930. So, but between the two passages of Congress and Senate is when the stock market crashed in October of 29. So, okay, so the Smoot-Hawley Act was enacted in June of 1930. The unemployment rate at that point here in this country was 8%. Next year, in 1931, it was 16%, and then in 1932, the next year, it was 25%. The unemployment rate was 25%. Then Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected, and then in 1933, they passed the Reciprocal Agreement Tariff Act, where they started, and that was enacted in 1934, and that's when they started doing bilateral agreements with different countries to start repealing these different tariffs. So basically 1934 is the last time we had this many tariffs that we do right now. But here's another thing. In today's world, here in the US, we are 3 times more exposed to international trade than we were in 1934. So this is 3 times more risky now. Also, the last time before the 1930 Act was the McKinley Tariff Act of 1890. Same thing, it was a disaster and eventually repealed. Let's see. So also another interesting thing today, the Yale University Budget Lab came out with some statistics and a report that said with the tariffs that are in place right now, the average household here in the United States is going to get the same goods they bought this past year, it's going to cost them $4,700 more per year than it did this past year. Also, I lost track. I don't know if, so I'll just mention this. Maybe I already mentioned it, but Trump's, he delayed most of those large reciprocal tariffs till July 9th. It's a 90-day delay. Now, basically, he gave in to himself. He wanted other countries to give in to his tariff pressure and come do deals with him, but he gave in to himself because he saw the stock market sinking, and that probably obviously made him nervous. So he gave in to his own tariffs and delayed them 90 days. Well, now, and prior to that, he delayed the Canadian 25% auto tariffs by a month. Now they are enacted now, but he had delayed those a month. So, you know, it's on again, off again, on again, off again. His word means nothing now. So, and that's not good for him, for his negotiating. So, because his whole administration and him, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and everyone was saying, yes, these tariffs are going to be permanent. And then the day, they were saying that up to the day they were enacted, and then all of a sudden they're delayed 90 days. So now his negotiating power has plummeted way down, because now when he's going to enact those tariffs, those countries are going to be like, yeah, sure, enact them, because we know when it starts causing damage to your country, you're going to wimp out and repeal them. So, but anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens. As I speak, our tariffs on on Chinese goods are 145%, and Chinese tariffs on our goods are 125%. So that's I can't see how that's can even function, how trade can even function, but we'll see how this all works out. It'll be interesting, and that's all I have to say for the moment on the tariffs. Have a good day, everybody.